Welcome back, fellow shop rats. Today we are back on the 73 Swinger we affectionately call Scoops. We are back on the choke. Not that there's anything wrong with the choke as it is from the last time we worked on it, but Becky wants to drive this car and she doesn't want to mess with having to deal with the manual choke, which I completely understand. It took me about 2 weeks because I cleaned the shop and I put stuff away, and I knew I had one more electric choke assembly around here somewhere. Finally found it yesterday, so today we're going to get this put on this car. I think this is going to be kind of an informative thing if you've never done one of these before. It's not complicated, but let's get into it. I'm Mike, and you are watching My Car Shop. A while ago, we had done a couple of episodes on this where the choke shaft had broken and the choke blade had fallen down into the carburetor. And then we had done one on the electrical. There was some concern about the amount of voltage that this charging system was putting out. This has been over a month now. The charging system was high that day, but since then it's been just fine. So it was one of those electrical things. I think the battery was just so down, and these cheap Chinesium regulators sometimes don't work real well, and it just was just pouring the berries to it. But it's been good ever since, no problems at all. So first thing we need to do is come on over here. Come on. Get the screwdriver out and take all of this manual choke mechanism off of the carburetor. Get that done. By the way, when I say good on the voltage, it's been, 13.5, 14.2, 14.5 the whole time. So no problems at all. So there are 3 screws here that hold this mechanical choke unit on there, and then there is the one screw for the cable itself. I'm not going to take the cable out of the car at this point. We're just going to disconnect it just in case of an emergency and we want to put the manual choke back on. We'll be able to do that. So let's get these screws out of our throttle bore body situation here and pull this mechanical choke assembly off. Isn't this fun? A lot of people complain about Holley carburetors, and I get it. A Quadrajet is a very simple carburetor. It's an air door carburetor. They work. They're a little bit more difficult to rebuild than a Holley. I like Holley carbs. I like Quadrajet carbs. Back in the day, we used to call them Quadrajunks. Thermoquad carburetors are fine, except for the plastic body ones that would melt and burn a hole through. But overall, all these carburetors were good. I've done some episodes on carburetor functionality. There's a great misunderstanding about how a Holley functions versus your air door carburetors, which basically are, to oversimplify it, they're variable CFM carburetors, and it creates a lot of confusion. It's like, well, geez, you're saying put this size carburetor on, but the factory put on an 850 Quadrajet on. Well, an 850 Quadrajet doesn't necessarily flow 850 because of the air door, the way they function. They only take what they need, that kind of stuff. Similarly, a vacuum secondary carburetor, when it's tuned properly, just because this is a 600 doesn't mean it's going to use 600. There's episodes on that. It's controversial, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it's off of there. There it is, like a ragu. Except a ragu is in there, and this is off of there. There's one more plastic plate back here I believe needs to come out, if my memory serves me correctly. Maybe not, but I think it does. I think this plastic plate needs to come out because that's part of the manual choke assembly, and it's not actually, yeah, it does. Quite sure. It's got a little clip on there. We got to pull that clip. It's been a while since I've swapped one from mechanical to okay, so now that we got that plate out of there, we're going to try to fit this unit in here. I'm concerned about the fast idle mechanism, if it's the same, if it's correct, because it feels like it may be interfering here. Because I can't, let's see, yeah, I can't get that in there because of this great big unit here. Better go up in the warehouse and look and see what I got for, because this just screws on here. It's been a while. I feel like this is different because it's definitely hitting here. And, interesting. There's a vacuum port. Okay, good. It's right there. It's blocked off. That needs to be taken off of there as well. That's really important because this is a vacuum port right here. And if this doesn't have, if this has the block off for the manual choke and it doesn't have the little gasket that goes in there, this isn't going to work right. Okay, let's go get that. All right, we're up here in the warehouse. I got some, it's a 2-barrel. There's a throttle port right there. That's missing everything on that side. But I think it's right here. I believe that's it. It looks like the same thing. Let's see what this one's got on it. This is a complete one. There we go. That's what it's supposed to have right there. Is this a much smaller metal unit and it angles differently. I believe that's what we're missing. So we got to take that up, a screwdriver, take that off of there, take it down and get it on that other carburetor. So we got to get this screw out of here and get this assembly off. Yes, I had already loosened it off camera. Okay. And this whole assembly just lifts off of there as a unit. There's a spring, so I want to try to keep it copacetic and not so pathetic. It's pretty straightforward piece. Yeah, just like that. Okay, and the spring goes from there down to there, I believe. Okay, let's go get the one off the car. We'll just set that unit over there. Okay, hopefully. There we go. This one I didn't loosen off camera, so there you go. It should come off of there, like so. Okay, cool. So that is different. Probably the trickiest part of the installation is getting this outer bracket in place and getting that spring where it needs to be. I've never really been greatly successful at it, but that little spring needs to go right down in that little slot. There we go, that's there. And now I got to get this plate up in position where it belongs to go on there like so. I think that's on. Yep, it is. So now we got to get the screw in there while we hold all that together. And I'll bring you around and show you in just a second. It's not totally in place yet, but I want to get the screw in so that the spring doesn't pop out while I adjust the plates to get them to just kind of, there we go, pop around each other. So kind of a pot licker of a thing to do, but there we go. Now our fast idle spring works. And of course we're here. So I need to tighten that up with a big screwdriver. Let me bring you down here and I'll show you what we're talking about. Okay, so this little spring right here, you can see that it has to go down into that little pocket right there. And then this has to be so it hits against the stop back here, because this is the one that actually screws to the throttle blade. So holding that spring up and getting this lined up, because it's a flat that goes on the end of the throttle shaft, can be kind of tricky. But we got it. So now let's tighten this screw down here, and that part should be good to go. So now we got to go to our Holley box and get the gasket that goes in there. I just checked and it fits good. So that definitely that manual fast idle unit does not work, but this fits right up in there now. So I had it in there. It's hard to do this with the camera in my hand, but it does. It fits right in there. So let's get that gasket and we'll go from there. And I was remembering that this was different on a manual choke versus the electric choke. So that's my memory was correct. The gasket that goes in there is just a little flat cork gasket. We could probably, oh, that's Holley jets. Those are nitrous jets, I think. Yep, they are. So anyway, there's just a little flat cork gasket that goes in there, so it's going to take me a while. But I wanted to mention while I'm digging, one of the reasons I like the Holley carburetors, well, a couple of reasons. Universality. There's a lot of cross exchange of parts. There's just tons of them out there. There we go. There's a gasket right there. I think that's it. Here's one that looks even better. It's a little bit beefier. Well, Yeah, let's use this one. All right, so anyway, universality of parts. Yep, that's it right there. There's so many things that fit. Ultimately, like especially with quick change jet kits and so forth, they're super easy to tune at the track. Now I know that for guys that race all the time, you're constantly tweaking your jets a little this way, a little that way because of atmospheric conditions and blah blah blah. I've always found once I get a carburetor together, for the most part, it works good. But I'm not going to, try to get on. I need to get, 0.2 of a second better in the quarter mile today in order to win the race, kind of stuff. And fine jetting can make that difference. So, but I do find overall they're just a simple carburetor and they're fairly easy to work on. And yeah, they have some weird stuff about them, but once you know them, they're pretty good. Now, having said all that, I did my senior thesis when I was in college. I was a history major, but I was a power transportation tech minor, and I did my senior thesis on how to hot rod quadrajet carburetors. So, it's not that I don't like them or that I don't. I think I did my junior one on. I might have done my junior one on thermoquads. I don't remember, but anyway. I know I did a couple papers when I was in college on carburetors and how to hot rod them and how to modify them and how to make them perform super well. I have tons and tons of Holleys and just over the years, and so I've always stuck with them. I always put just a little grease on the cork to hold that in place. You don't want the port blocked, but it's important that the cork doesn't fall out. And then the next thing is we need to get the choke rod into the thingamabob here. So it's got a long ways to go and a short time to get there, but I think we want to get that clip in there where we've got it out here where we can get at it. So where'd I put the clip? Okay. I thought I set it here. There it is. Okay. Grab that with the pliers. That's the easiest way to get it in there, in my opinion, and not lose it. And that will just hold that unit right where it belongs. I'll make sure I put the clip in the right way. I know it's hard to see what I'm doing here, but there's a little clip that's got to go through there to hold that choke rod into the choke assembly. There, oh, missed it. Tell you what, when you get old, the eyes don't work so well. It's hard to see stuff. Okay, so that's there, and that's there. Where's our little corky? Corky's still there. So we got to spin you up and around. Okay, yeah. What happened was this was spun 360 degrees, so I had to spin it all the way around, and I dropped my cork. But I had to spin it all the way around to get it in position. So now I got it in position. Now I just got to find where the heck my cork is. Okay, I got it in there. Sorry, I couldn't show you the installation, but I had a whole lot going on there for a bit, and I had to get the screw in order to make it all fit. So, but anyway, now we just got to get this screw in, which I think it's going. Yep, it did. And we're missing one screw. And yep, our cork is in, as far as I can tell. Okay, so we just got one more screw to put in right here. I'm going to steal that. Okay, so the screws off the manual choke are too long. I went back in the box where I had that unit and dug around, and lo and behold, there was the screw. I thought I had all three of them, so we know it's the one because it's got the blue heads on it. Why this thing was painted blue, I don't know. It came off of the carburetor that's in John's 66 Belvedere. I rebuilt that, I forget what, 850 or whatever he's got on it, and he said he didn't want the choke, so he said I could have it. So I kept it for this project because I knew I was going to want to put eventually an electric choke on this thing. Where's the last screw? Right down there. Okay. Good. Come on, take that screw down. I can't see it. Here it is. Here you are. Okay, so where are we at? Is it working? I believe it is. So we can tell by, let's see, let's get a feel for where it's at right now. It's about there. Let's give it an adjustment and make sure that we're getting full range. Where's that last screw? Right down here. Need a stubby, I guess. I can't quite get at it, or a longer screwdriver. Here's a stubby. This should work, maybe. I guess I should have loosened that screw before I put it on there. I can't get at it. Let me, I got another way to do it. Hold on. All right, we got it. We just used a 1/4 inch screw gun and a 1/4 inch wrench. So now hopefully this will, yep, that turns. So let's turn her full range. Yep, there she goes. That way it was opening it. And that way is closing it. Good. So when we were in, kind of in that ballpark there, it's going to take a while to determine exactly how we want this to be, but we're going to put the electric assist on it anyway. So for the weather out today, that feels pretty good. Could be a little bit tighter maybe. It's all by guess and by gosh, you know. Okay, that's the wrong way. Probably about there. Okay, we're gonna hook up the electric assist on this also, but for right now, this is the way we're going. So let me fire it up and see what we got. Better put my advance back on. Let's see how she sounds. Okay, so we had issues. You saw that brief video where I started up and it was racing like crazy. The throttle was stuck because where the fast idle screw plate was, which is basically this plate on there, was metal, was bent a little bit. And it was binding against the choke plate. So I had to take that back off of there, just bend that in a little bit, and it's all working perfectly now. So we're golden. Now we just need to get our electrical hooked up for the choke. Trying to decide what's the best place to grab that. We want key on power, obviously. We don't want the choke to heat up with the key on but the engine not running. So in the wintertime, if you start it up and it happens to die, then the choke doesn't continue to open. So got to think about that, where I want to grab that power from. What's this one? There's a bunch of wires cut off there. I don't know what those are for. Red, green, and black. It's almost like a tack feed cut off. Not sure what those are, but I think they were coming out for something. Yeah, so let me scratch my head for just a hot minute. There's a plug right here. Let's see if that one, if that has key on power, that might be the cat's meow, because I think in this year, I feel like there was a choke wire that this choke that was on the slant 6, it's gone now, so I can't look, but I can look on my 74. I think the choke on those are electric assist, which means this was a slant 6 car, basically the same as my 74, except for the seatbelt interlock electronic stuff over here. There may be a wire here that's for the choke. Let me dig around and see what I come up with. Here we go. That's it right there. I'm almost positive. Because it's a blue wire just like the 74. And this would just plug right onto the, we'll have to do a little modification, but that would be it. So let's double check the voltage on this and see where it's at. Okay, I don't know where my digital voltmeter is. I do not know where my test lights are. What I get for putting things away. I can never find anything. But this old one I've had since high school will do the job. Okay, put her here, turn her on to 12 volts. 15 volts DC. Let's check it at the battery over here, see what we got. Okay, we got voltage. So let's actually we'll leave this hooked up to the negapository over here. Let's check this on the suppository. Okay, we got our voltage there. So the key's off right now. I expected to have nothing. Let's go turn the key on. Okay, we still got nothing. So let's turn the motor on and see if we got voltage. Nothing. Scratch my head on that. Okay, well that took a hot minute. So this blue wire that was here is actually from a light. It's an extra, I don't know what it would feed, maybe a hood light, I'm guessing. It doesn't, anyway, it doesn't have voltage, so it doesn't matter. But I was digging around in here and I found a bundle of wires all taped up. So that was phenomenal. What most guys do when they put a V8 in a car is they just cut everything off, and these weren't. This is the thermostat wire for the temperature sender unit for the dash. I'm going to throw that back in even though we have an aftermarket. Here's the blue one I was looking for. This is the one for the choke. And then this one I'm not sure. Maybe oil pressure. It's got 12 volts though, so I'm not sure what that one's going to do. So I'm going to do the right thing on that one and just bundle that one back up, tape up the end, and that one's got 12 volts. I'm not sure what that was for. So I'm going to run these two wires down where they belong and get them hooked up properly. And I already created a ground over to the choke, so that's good. That's done. So that one goes under here like so, and then this one will go in there underneath there like so, and then it goes to the choke. And okay, good. And as I said, I've already got a ground, so I'll bring you over here and let you see that. So I created a little ground wire that goes into the ground side and just goes back here to where the coil mounts. The coil's still zip tied up here. I have a bracket finally. I found one. I'll get that on there at some point. I'm not sweating that right now. I do need to get that done, but for now that works. But anyway, yeah, so that was outstanding that those wires were there and not gone. And so I'm really happy about that. So those are all hooked up. So now let's get some time lapse going here, and we're going to just turn the key on and see about watching that choke open. So I wanted to mention something. This is factory wiring. So in my own world, I wouldn't necessarily want power to the choke when the key's on but not running, but this is the way Mopar did it. I'm not rewiring something different. This works fine. So if it worked good enough for other Mopar, it should work good enough for me. So I'm just going to turn the key on. We're not going to bother firing it up. I just want to make sure that this coil heats up, and so we should see that in the time lapse. Winner chicken dinner. That works good, so I'm happy with that. Let's get our stuff kind of cleaned up out of the way here. Still got to do some taping up, like I said. Oh, and I found all my test lights and my voltmeter. I forgot I created a little tackle box full of electrical stuff. So, duh. That's what happens when I start organizing. Can't ever find anything for a while. Yeah, so let's get this fired up. What I'm testing now is to see how tight this gets, to make sure that everything's working right. We're going to have to adjust the choke when it's cold, but yeah, we're getting good back pressure on it here, so. Winner chicken dinner there. Running good. A nice little cam in this thing. Well, that's good. So we got to do a cold adjustment on that, but at least it'll be to the point now that Becky should be able to drive it. So I'm going to take her for a test drive, make sure everything's good, and we'll be right back. Nobody will be giving any brief messages, but I'll be back. Just like a bad check. I promise. Well, there we go. So next step on this then is to let it get cold and remember there being a dent in the bumper. Let it get cold and check the choke adjustment and make sure the choke pull-off is working. But I think it's close to being ready for Becky to drive. So one thing I want to do to it today, I'm not going to bother wasting your time with, but I do want to give it a quick bath and do a couple other little things to it. But overall, I think it's pretty good. So if you want to know how to change it, manual choke to an automatic choke, that's what we did today. There are instructions online. I just looked. There's an instruction sheet that Holley puts out that if you buy the electric choke kit, they even publish it online. So if you want step-by-step instructions and you're doing like I did where you just took something off another carburetor, you can print those instructions out. But I covered most of the points here on how to do it. So on a Mopar, your choke wire's already there if it's in this vintage. Everything's working good. So, all right, that'll do it for this one. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Link to the merchandise down there in the description. If you want to send me stuff, my email address is down there in the description. And there's all kinds of tasty goodness down there in the description. But the most important thing around here, don't forget, because it's important.